Hello ladies and gentlemen, I am BorderWise and welcome to a tutorial for a ridiculous alternative to propellers and daddy blades in From the Depths. So, the alternative is Spinblock wing props. And the idea behind it is fairly simple. You take a Spinblock, you stick wings on it, and away you go. So, this is something I've been messing around with a little bit. And it basically, I got started on the idea because it's like, hang on, I remember things like faction craft, like the Coffin Nailed, doing interesting things using improvised helicopter, lifting blades using wings and stuff like that. How else can we use them? And as it turns out, you can use them for a variety of things. And in this particular case, it is free propulsion for this boat. More on that later. So in order to build these, it's reasonably straightforward. I'm just gonna grab one of these as a placeholder. You take wings, which orientate themselves automatically when you place a Spinblock to, face up and forward, or at the very least up, and you stick it on, and whichever direction you want the main force to go, that's the top of the Spinblock. So you see that arrow? I wanted to go that way, so that is how I stick it. And if I wanted to go backwards, I do that. If I wanted to go up, I do that. If I wanted to pull down, I do that. Reasonably straightforward. It's easy to overthink that. So, right here we've got a boat that uses them. So, let's discuss the pros and cons of these things. For a start, they're very powerful for their size. Wings in From the Depths are a little bit ridiculous to the point where generally speaking, with planes, you only ever want to use them if you really have to, because it actually throws off the plane changing altitude, because it means it can't pitch down very well. So best to avoid them with planes, but as it turns out, jamming them on a Spinblock is you get quite a powerful thruster. This thing is scuttling along at 30 meters per second, and it's got just two 5x5 Spinblock props doing that right now. And the bigger they get, the stronger they get, and the more of them they get, the stronger they get, and you can stick them on top of each other. So, they are very strong. They're also cheap, so if we go to the part of the build menu when you find them, this is the block in question, wings in particular. These things are only 5 materials each. They're super cheap. They're not as cheap as Daddy Blade extensions, but they are much stronger. Like, the faster they go, the more lift they have. And yeah, so these things are also 5 times more effective underwater. So, these are just, really cheap, powerful. They're really powerful and cheap for what they can do. And speaking of power, they don't require any. You'll notice that this little boat is scuttling along at about 13 meters per second, and it has no engine at all. So this is all empty. All it's got in here is an air mainframe and an air pump, and I believe... do I even have any pitch control here? Nope. We've got some hydrofoils acting as pitch control, and that's it. Why are these things doing that? Don't know why they were orientated that way. That's kind of weird, to be honest with you. But yeah, no power. That's the main advantage of these things, I feel, is that you can get pretty high speeds, and by pretty high speeds, I mean ridiculous high speeds if you have enough of them and they're big enough. And zip, zilch, absolutely nada power required. Yeah, that's the main reason I'm totally in love with these things now and want to build everything with them. I must restrain myself. But yeah, their main use was like main propulsion and lift. So you make a helicopter rotor out of this. It's way more powerful than a Daddy Blade, especially if you make it big. And it's modular. Once you've got a saved sub-object with these things, like I have, you can just slap them whenever you like. And it's really easy. There are problems with them, though. They are quite fiddly to set up. This is about the easiest configuration I possibly have with them. It's just set to forward and main positive. You have to set that manually whenever you place a new Spinblock, one that you haven't saved previously, because otherwise the AI doesn't know what to do with it. So, and in particular, if you want to set it up using, say, as main lift, for instance, it does not play well with PIDs. I found that the best way to use them is using ACBs, because ACBs are simple and therefore kind of idiot-proof. If you try and use a PID with this, you're going to run into trouble, because they lack fine control. The wings do one thing only, and that's lift, and they don't work in reverse. So if we turn off our fella right here, this is me heading forward, so we're going to go forward. And this thing's reverse is disabled, but I can still hit the reverse gear, and I'm hitting reverse, and we're still moving forward. So unfortunately, these props don't work in reverse, so these are not particularly good for frontsiders or anything else that needs to move backwards. This is not a huge problem for me, since I'm kind of used to building things that don't work in reverse, but if you like the option to move your craft backwards if needs be, which, to be fair, does crop up occasionally in things like the campaign and adventure mode and stuff like that. And by occasionally, I mean whenever your stupid boat is about to run into land. Yeah, these things are a bit of a problem with that. In fact, like, it's possibly best to combine these with other things that allow the craft to move backwards, because these... like I said, they do one thing and one thing only, and that is forward or up, or whatever direction you've pointed them in. And on that note, these things make pretty terrible pitch and roll control as a result, because the best pitch and roll control is something that can be fine-tuned with a PID to give more or less thrust, or it's something that works in both directions. So something like a Daddy Blade, for instance, it can pull... If I stick a Daddy Blade like right here, for instance, this fella can pull both up and down, and that's really fine, equally well. If I tried that with one of these, the thing would only pull in the direction that the top of the Spinblock is facing. I have tried to make a proper roll control or pitch control with these things. It really doesn't work that well. It is possible, but it is very, very fiddly, and you're better off using something else anyway. And another problem is that these things are delicate. So you'll see the wing here has health of 100, armor of 1. That's not much. These things will get destroyed as soon as something sneezes at them. Compare that with a dedicated Hella Blade, which has less health, 75, but it has 5 times as much armor. And you compare that with, say, a jet engine, which has 2,700 health, 25 armor, same stats for the ion, a thruster. I think even custom jets have better. Yep, they definitely do. They have much more health, much more armor. Even, even the small custom jets, way more health, way more armor, just generally more durable. And they're more compact, so in order to get this thing going at very high speeds, they need to be big, and they do get stuck on things. So if I do this, like so, and this guy is set to forward, and if I do this, you'll notice that guy is not moving. This guy is trying to move, but nope, he's stuck, so that's not going to work well. These guys need proper clearance in order to do that thing. That thing being move the craft. And I've stuck that guy too high, so we're not going to do that right now. So yeah, it is possible to stack them, it is possible to clip them, but that's getting into exploit territory, which is probably good for another vid. So instead, I'm going to hop over to the examples of everything I was just talking about. The Spinblock prop boat, you've pretty much already seen everything there is to see. Lovely little thing, moves for free. So this kind of setup is actually very handy for stuff that you don't ever intend to get shot at, for things like cargo lifters, scout craft, spy plane, stuff like that. I made a spy plane just the other day. In fact, on stream, as it happens. And let me show you that spy plane because it's hilarious. This is the spy bat. And one of the wonderful things about this is that this thing will cruise up to a very high altitude. and it just has 3 of these guys on the back, has no engine, and thus it doesn't consume any materials and is incredibly cheap, and is absolutely lovely. Takes freaking ages to get to the altitude it's supposed to be, but that is a pragmatic use of these Spinblock propellers. They just go up and they do their thing. They get the thing moving, and they get it moving for free, so to speak. And they're nice and cheap. It's very nice. You can also, like the tooltip says, this works. Those wings are 5 times as strong underwater, which helps compensate for drag a little bit. So where is there and there? So here's a little submarine. I just improvised. None of these things are armed. And I did mount this on an Azipod, so just for giggles, and we're gonna head over there. This thing is not 100% optimized, it's functional. It shows you the idea. So, had to make an Azipod version of this because that is fantastic. And there's just the regular, and by regular I mean the thing that I keep posting here, there, and everywhere. That's decoration on that. It's just a decoration sphere that put on there, so I can tell which end it's pointing. And this is a good example of just how fiddly these things can be, because for some reason, just setting this spinner on the end to respond to forward thrust and the main player control, it didn't work so well. So this thing uses 2 ACBs to control that propeller instead. So if propulsion block is forward, if propulsion command is forward, sets the spin block spinning, and if propulsion command is done, we'll set the spin block rotation to 0. So I can do that, and it stops, and then we do that, and it's fine. And the important thing here is, if you're going to try doing something like this with this Azipod, it's set rotation speed of continuous mode, specifically, rather than just setting all of them to linear, because if you do this, it's going to mess with this other spin block right here. Found that out the hard way. It was very silly. So, works just fine on submarines, and also, I believe, haven't checked this, might be about to make a fool of myself, completely, yep, this is completely invisible to passive sonar, and is much cheaper than an ion jet, which would ordinarily be the thing for an extra stealthy submarine. So this thing, you're not going to see it on sonar. And you can imagine if you make a rubber version of these, it's just like, it is so sneaky, they just won't see you coming at all. Note to self, make something like that. Also, high speed, no engine. Brilliant. What else? I did mention this thing is very good at lifting, so here's an example of just how strong these rotors can be. This is quite possibly the ugliest thing I have ever built. It is a gyropter of sorts, because it's got a whole bunch of these little things on the back. They are stacked to actually do the thing that they're supposed to. You'll notice that the total lift of the ones on the end are more than the ones on the back, and that's because if you stack spin blocks, it effectively stacks the spin rate of them. It's got this thing also, no engine required. It is controlling itself with 2 PIDs. It's got pitch and roll deddy blades, big ones, because they're not powered at all. And it's got this giant-ass double heli blade in there. And in case you're wondering, yeah, those are wings in there. So if you stack these things and make them bigger, they have incredible lifting power for free, basically. Or at the very least, they don't cost materials continuously. So this thing is heavy, by the way. The weight of it is, where's the weight? Is 458,372, because it's entirely made of heavy armor. It in fact even has some lead in the back here just to balance it out a little bit better, and just to show off that you can really lift a lot with these. It is nowhere near as durable as, say, hiding custom jets behind a wall of heavy armor, but it's free. It's free, doesn't require power. Can't emphasize that enough. Also, this thing does have ailerons and a whole bunch of pitch things in there, because the problem with I should have mentioned before, this kind of setup you absolutely need good pitch and roll control for this, because unlike a Daddy Blade, which can be set to only exert force up, and thus it's very stable, this giant Spinblock thing, that doesn't do the trick as much, and I will show you that by deleting all its pitch control. And its roll control, actually. And this thing is going to flip straight into the ocean when I do that, and that will be absolutely hilarious, and will be totally worth the wait, I promise. So, especially if this thing starts moving. Assuming that, yep, there we go. It's starting to pitch, it's starting to roll, because that thing on top of it is just pulling very, very hard in one direction, and that's the direction it's pointing, rather than the direction always being up. So, yeah, these are fiddly, and there's definite downsides to them. We're just gonna let you chill at the bottom of the ocean for now. But probably the most fun thing you can possibly do... What is happening up there? Oh, it's a nice pipeline. I forgot I spawned that in. The most fun thing you can do with these is stack them and get things going ridiculously fast. And I would like to apologize preemptively for anyone who gets motion sick, because this was what happened when I tested turboprops, and, well... this thing goes at top speed around 200 meters per second. And like before... no engine required, no custom jet, doesn't consume any materials to do it. It's just two spin blocks stacked on top of each other with a bunch of wings. And the forces involved in this thing are insane, by the way. It's got two PIDs just so it's slightly less insane, but it's pretty insane. Oh my goodness, I'm gonna barf just looking at that. So, that is some idea, and some ideas for you, as to... oh my goodness, we nearly had a collision. Maybe this thing should be the thumbnail, since it's the least ugly out of everything we've got here. Or maybe not. Maybe it should be this thing, since it's making me sick. So yeah, that's... I'm gonna pause it, because honestly, I can't look at that too much. So that's basically Spinblock wing props. This is definitely... I guarantee you, I have not seen anybody do this. I guarantee you I am not the first one to come up with this. Simply because this is an idea too silly and too good to not have been, well, thought of and experimented with by somebody else. So if you have tried this for yourself, do tell, and do tell what you've managed to do with it, because it's hilarious. This is just generally really fun. That's probably the thing most in its favor. So yeah, thank you all so much for watching. Please like, comment, subscribe if you want to see more videos like this. Support me on Patreon or YouTube membership if you like. It really helps. And there's fun perks in it for you. Thank you to all my current supporters, and I will see you next time in From the Depths. Farewell.